On the bench, this is a tensioner from a VX760 Brother. It's got a dial, faces like this. This machine covered in wax and old oil and all kinds of horrible things. The tension discs are different. One has a small notch to fit on this alignment pin. That disc goes on first, and then the second disc has a wider notch and rotates. That wider notch is to make room for the release lever. Release lever has a curve. It sets in place here. The notch on that release lever slips over this chrome piece, so you can see the back side there, front side there. When it gets pushed on, it lifts as such, and that wider gap on the outside disc allows for the arm to go in to lift. Next is our tension spring. There isn't a cup for the spring per se. There is, however, a and then the dial. The dial is what has the screw part of the tensioner that puts pressure. This white piece is separate, so you have to get the notch on the white piece over this black pin. Look in there. All right. So with that notch on the pin, when I turn the dial, it comes out and goes in because we don't have our retainer in place. And we get to put forgot where that washer came from. It doesn't come from here. It goes in a different spot. And forgot this little spring goes on the center because that's what keeps the dial out against the stopper here. And then we can put one of these nuts in place. So that's right. I do need that washer on here. So that washer is the spacer to keep the stop from touching the nut. Otherwise, it rides against the nut on this here. So, all right. We'll put our other stop washer on here. And then these two lock nuts here, this is one of the ways you can adjust the tensioner. If you just loosen them a little bit and jam them against each other, this dial can pop out a little bit and loosen the tension. So I'm gonna kind of set them in a looser spot, and then when we get it in place, we'll check it over. All right, so the upper tension in place. Now we've got the check spring here, and it sits inside a bracket here. And you'll notice that the bracket has a notch on the side, and this is the notch that tension spring rides in, and there's a take-up adjustment in this row of teeth here, so you can put the tail of the spring in the row of teeth wherever it feels like it's got a good bit of spring action. There's a this was all so stuck together when I took it apart that I didn't even know these two pieces were separate. Look at that. All right, well, then we're going to have to assemble this on the piece here. So there's the hook section. There's a alignment pin here, and it sets in place. The spring has to go inside the fold here, so you can see it popping out there. And then once we get that in place, I'm going to just set this down so that I can line it all up and get things in place. This cap has two sides with pin locations that actually go on two tiny pins on that bracket, and then to make sure that we get our spring in the gap. All right, so we've got this screw in place. Come on. Okay, so this screw is in place, and we're going to have to, it's got a friction washer underneath it, so this is going to get tightened, and then the gap retaining the spring has to get lined up. So I'm going to snug this by hand. And check it. Okay. So what I'm checking is to make sure that the spring moves and doesn't hit its stopper before the All right, I'm going to stick with this gap is even crossways, and that way, yeah, it looks like the spot for the hook, the thread will come through the hook and get into our take-up spring, and the take-up spring moves all the way up into the hole without hitting its stopper. And then I'm gonna add more tension to that take-up spring by pushing the tail around those teeth until it gets to the far side. That way it's got really nice spring action. We hold this in place and tighten this back down. And remember, there's a tension washer in here, so you just have to snug it against and flatten that tension washer out, and that will hold itself in place very well. Alright, that is this tensioner reassembled. Gonna put it back in the machine, and we'll have to test it out. When reinstalling the tensioner, there is an important thing here. Remember, the lifter here, it's got a curve on it, and that curve is pushed on by this pin from the presser foot. So you need to make sure that your presser bar is down and that this pin here is on the outside of the curve from the tension release bar. That way, it's very easy when you're sliding this in to get this bar from the presser bar on the wrong side of that release. The other thing that is on the tension assembly here, there's a thread guide that gets reinstalled after the tension assembly is in, and the presser foot spring pressure notch and adjustment is here to adjust your presser foot tension.